Hey guys, today I want to show you a quick tutorial on how to saute without using oil. So oftentimes when I tell people that I don't usually cook or bake with oil, they look at me like I'm crazy and they want to know how to do that. So a lot of people start with adding olive oil to a pan. I haven't done that in quite a while, and I found that either using nothing in the pan or a little bit of water or broth does the trick just fine. So I usually start, and as a side note, I'm no expert, but this works well for me. So I usually start with the pan on like medium heat, and I let it get warm for a little bit. Today I'm going to be making just a little tofu scramble, nothing too crazy. We have onions, garlic, and then tofu. Okay, so the pan is pretty hot right now, so I'm gonna start. You can start with a little water if you want. I've found that usually it's not needed. This is a non-stick pan, so obviously that's helping a lot. I use the silicone spatula, whatever it's called. I don't know the correct name here, but this kind of helps get under whatever I'm cooking so it doesn't stick, so I recommend that. So I'm just going to put the onions on the skillet. As you can hear, it's sizzling, so it's pretty hot, and I think the most important thing is just to keep an eye on it, because if you leave and just let it do its thing, it will probably stick to the bottom. So it's a matter of just keeping an eye on it. Pretty much just moving or stirring the onions around so it doesn't burn, but I mean, you don't have to do it non-stop. It's usually pretty fine. I'll let these cook for a couple minutes, add in some garlic and then the tofu, and we're rolling. But as you can see, the onions are not an issue so far without having oil on them. Okay, I've let the onions sit for a little bit, so I'm going to mix them around a little bit again. I can see they're starting to cook. They're not really sticking to the bottom or anything, no issues. Luckily, onions naturally have a lot of moisture. So like onions, mushrooms, I mean, produce in general, a lot of it has water, a good water content. But I think just the water or oils, obviously I don't know the correct terminology here, and the onions help it not to stick. So if you have any recipe that starts with onions, you're probably pretty good on the whole sticking factor. You can see, you probably can't because it's not zoomed in, but some of the onions are actually getting a little brown on them, so they cook really well. I've noticed sometimes with like green onions, when I cook them in the pan, they don't always get like that crispy, or how onions get that brown. The bell peppers don't really get that. Yeah, I'm just babbling now. Just constantly, not literally constantly, but just keeping an eye on the onions, making sure they're not sticking. I could probably go and do something else I need to do and come back and it would be fine, because that's what I usually do, but I'm just keeping an eye on it. So I've just been good about mixing or moving the onions around so they don't stick, but they're cooking pretty well. I don't know how the lighting is, if you can see, but they're starting to get a little brown on them. Again, this is no oil, just the natural wetness of the onions. Now I'm going to add some garlic, let it cook for a little bit. Again, at this point, you could add a little bit of water, but usually when I do this, it's fine. Kind of turn down the heat just a little bit because the garlic is small and it cooks faster. I'm just going to give it the garlic about a minute. This is kind of a no oil tutorial slash tofu scramble, so it works. But just giving the garlic about a minute, and then I'm going to start adding the crumbled tofu. So I actually didn't press and drain the my goodness. I actually didn't press and drain the tofu, which a lot of times I do, I guess depending on the recipe. That's where you get all the, not all of it, oopsie, most of the moisture out of the tofu. But it kind of helps keep moisture in the pan to cook everything instead of the oil. So I usually don't press and drain the tofu. But pretty much just crumble it and put it in the pan, and then we'll mix some more. Okay, after adding the tofu, giving it a good mix, Can probably raise that heat back up. Again, there's no exact science to this. I'm just showing you a tutorial. As you can see, the tofu doesn't really stick. I've had no sticking issues so far, and we are in the somewhat home stretch with these. Sometimes I actually like to let the tofu sit for a little bit and not mix it and let it cook to the pan just a little bit to get that texture, if that makes sense. So I'm going to let it cook for a minute, and then I'll add some seasonings, mix it, and cook it again. Alright, my eggs have been, or eggs, my tofu has been cooking for a little while, so I'm going to add some seasoning. I'm just going to throw whatever in. I generally know what I like on my food, so some salt, pepper, lots of pepper, smoked paprika. My seasonings are all, excuse me, stuck to the stuck inside the bottle because I let the moisture of the steam get in them. I know I shouldn't, but sometimes I do. Cumin. Some turmeric to make them yellow. That might have been too much. Oh shoot. Okay, this is getting messy. Some onion powder. Where is it? Pumpkin pie spice. Some garlic powder. That's why my seasonings get condensation in them. The seasoning sticks. Bad habit. Where are you? Some hot sauce. So the whole time I was adding all the seasonings, I didn't mix the tofu eggs at all. That might have been too long, honestly. Let's see. So you can see it's kind of starting to stick to the bottom. But again, I feel like that's kind of the scrambled egg texture I want. So that's why I didn't mix them for a while. But all in all, not that much is sticking. Ooh, this smells delicious. Now I'm just mixing everything really well to get the seasonings all over the tofu and just to kind of cook it more evenly through. They are getting close to done though. I don't know how well you can see, but overall not much has stuck. And zero oil. Zoned out there for a second. Oh. Okay, now that everything, all the seasoning has been added, I'm going to add a little bit more salt and pepper and then let it stay and try to get it to cook a little bit to that pan again, just again for that scrambled egg type texture. So it's been cooking for a little bit longer. I'm going to mix it around and it is ready to eat when it's not piping hot. For the last while I've been on medium heat. After I added that garlic, turned it back up to that medium heat, and it's been cooking there ever since. And it is pretty much ready to eat once it cools down because it's really freaking hot right now. Woo! Way too hot. Okay. Very good. Delish.